Hello and welcome to tonight's free session on natural medicine for low thyroid function. My name is Martin Stone from Switch On Health, and tonight is the fourth free webinar that we are running this week as a part of ATMS Natural Medicine Week 2020. This session is being recorded live. It will be available on YouTube later. If you are watching this on YouTube and you'd like to support us in our mission to make natural health available to everyone, then please just click that subscribe button, because the more subscribers we have, the more we can offer, and we look forward to offering you more. Now, if you're watching this live and you've got any questions for us, please do just type them into the chat box and we'll be able to answer them for you at the end. If you're watching this on YouTube and you've got any questions, just type them into that comments box below and we will be sure to get back to you. Our presenter for tonight is Carol Hannington. Now, those of you that are already studying with Switch On Health may recognize Carol's voice, because she is one of our client support staff here at Switch On Health. And tonight she is taking a very brave step and doing her first ever webinar. And I know that she is going to be as fantastic at this as she is in her other role for us. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Carol.
Good evening, everybody. How are you? A quick bit about me. My name is Carol Hannington. As Martin just had a beautiful introduction to me, thank you. And I have actually been in the health industry for over 25 years now. I began my journey into natural medicine when I did a certificate course in herbal medicine at Cardiff Uni, and also studied clinical aromatherapy at Regent's University in London. I moved to Australia 20 years ago, and naturopathy is just huge here. So I thought, oh, better study that. So I did become a naturopath. And now I have my own clinic in a bayside suburb of Brisbane, where I practice as a naturopath, an aromatherapist, and a QHHT practitioner, which is a type of hypnotherapy. Now, my interest in low thyroid function began because I actually myself am a sufferer of Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is an autoimmune low thyroid condition. So it's a huge area of interest for me, and just love to help people and get them back on their wellness journey. So let's talk about the thyroid gland. What is it? What does it do? Thyroid gland is part of the endocrine system. It's located here in the throat behind the Adam's apple. And it's a very small, very light gland, but big on what it does with the body. When it goes wrong, all systems go wrong. So what does it do? One of its main jobs, you'll find, is regulating the metabolism, your metabolic rate. So that is how quickly you're going to be able to burn calories, or rather, in low thyroid function, how slowly you're going to burn those calories, which often leads to things like weight gain. You just can't work out. You know, you're doing the same exercise, you're eating the same foods, but you just can't do your genes up, don't look the way you used to. Also, you'll find there'll be factors like slowing down in your speech, your mental health, of foggy brain, low mood. You may have hair loss, slowing down of the growth of other tissues of the body. So as you can see, because it's to do with metabolic rate, everything starts to slow down, unfortunately. Okay, so what can we do about it? Let's have a little look. First of all, we're going to look at signs and symptoms of low thyroid function. So as mentioned, you're going to be very apathetic, lack of motivation, and you'll find that a lot of people with low thyroid function feel quite depressed. There'll be a sense of hopelessness because you can't understand what's happened to you. Where's the old me gone? Why is this happening? You'll often find that people with low thyroid function may be diagnosed with depression and be given antidepressants. So obviously that's just treating a symptom and not the cause. So this is where tests come in very handy. Okay, other signs and symptoms: fatigue, terrible fatigue. By 3 p.m. in the afternoon, you just want to crawl into bed. You just don't have the energy that you used to. Again, that gives you a feeling of what's happening to me. You just have no energy. We've mentioned the weight gain and how hard it may be for someone with low thyroid function, Hashimoto's, to lose weight. This doesn't always happen, but it's one of the principal signs, and it very often happens to people. Again, you're looking at the digestive system. You will maybe be suffering from constipation because, again, the system is slowed down. Possibly long and heavy menstrual periods, and again, some women may seek help from their GP and be put on the contraceptive pill, and again, band-aid solution won't really get to the cause. You may feel cold, feeling cold easily, poor memory, problems with cognition, mental fog, slow speech and thought, coarse hair and skin, and also really bad joint aches and muscle aches. Can't work. What have I been doing? Have I been to the gym? Have I worked too hard? Why am I aching so much? All to do with low thyroid function. I think another thing that we need to mention in there that probably hasn't been written down in those notes there is sometimes people's voices go a little bit deeper because of poor thyroid function. Okay, so why talk about thyroid function? Why learn about it? Why would someone in the natural health industry be interested in low thyroid function? That's because it's extremely common, very, very common, probably more common than we realize, because so much of it is subclinical and goes undiagnosed. It will affect women more than men, and we will have a look at that, why that is, in just a moment. And I must mention what modern medicine defines as low thyroid function may differ from the naturopathic perspective. So a naturopath will treat you differently than your orthodox medical practitioner will. So I'll just quickly run over the tests for thyroid function, because that's a whole nother area to go into, blood tests, etc. So your TSH is your thyroid stimulating hormone, and that is produced by your pituitary gland. So when the thyroid hormones of T4 and T3 are low, your TSH is desperately working to pump those hormones. And so that's a big, big indicator of high TSH level, that things aren't right. And again, when looking at blood tests, your orthodox medical practitioner and your naturopath or your herbalist, homeopath, etc., we'll be looking at different ideal reference ranges for those. You've got T3, reverse T3, and your antibodies are very, very important to be looked at as well, because those are the indicators for autoimmune disorders like Hashimoto's, thyroiditis. Not all GPs test for that, but if you have any issues or think you may have issues, always ask for that to be tested. It's most important. Okay, next slide. Why does this happen so much? Why is it so common? So endocrine disruption. Yeah, thyroid is like a weak link in the chain. it's stress, modern living. It often is kicked off by a particularly stressful episode that you may have in your life, and just that constant ongoing stress of never getting to the end of that to-do list. And especially for women, they have so many tasks to do: housework, kids, jobs, etc. And there's not much time left for me. Now, I'm not saying that to male bash, but women do seem to get the raw end of the deal where it comes to expectations, because we're all just as hard on ourselves to be the perfect woman, the perfect wife, the perfect mother, and meeting all the expectations of those various roles that we have in our lives. Now, the big thing we need to look at in regards to thyroid, I would say, especially when it comes to autoimmune, is inflammation. Now, what has inflammation got to do with it? Okay, so inflammation comes from eating the wrong foods. A lot of us do know what those are, but not everybody understands what wrong foods is. Everyone's got a very, very different definition of healthy. Dehydration is a massive factor. Most people don't drink enough water. And I also believe that even if we do have water, it may not be great. It needs to be filtered, get rid of all the chlorine, the fluoride, etc. in the water. Water's a big one. Unhealthy lifestyle. Food sensitivities. Now, you may not know it, but the foods that you're craving and the foods that may make you feel bloated or sneezy, they're the foods that you're sensitive to. They're causing the inflammation in your body. And you'll find in our Western diet that we may all be well fed, but undernourished. You're maybe eating lots of lovely calories, but getting no nutrients in those calories. That's quite a problem. So being malnourished is not a third world problem. It's actually a Western problem. A lot of us just don't eat well enough. The other thing you must look at is the chemical influences, the environmental influences around us. Personal products, like, you're layering your body with body gels, body lotions, deodorants, hairsprays, makeup, etc., and just overloading with those xenoestrogens and synthetic, quite toxic chemicals. The body can only take so much. Cleaning products is another big one. Always best to buy ones that are loaded with toxic chemicals. If you can make your own, great, but it's one of the contributing factors. Medications and the oral contraceptive pill will all cause endocrine disruption in the body. And the other thing that I haven't included there is antibacterial soaps, which are probably all the rage at the moment. Very bad idea, huge endocrine disruptor. Also disturb the balance of your gut, because if it's antibacterial, it's also disturbing your good gut bacteria. Infections, Epstein-Barr virus. This has probably been talked about a fair bit lately. I think the medical medium talks about EBV quite a lot, but you'll find it in lots of other research as well. And after you've had an episode of what's called the kissing disease, mononucleosis, glandular fever, EBV is a member of the herpes family, and it does tend to reside in your body and can often harbor in the thyroid gland. And when you have a particularly stressful period in your life, it can flare back up, causing thyroid problems. And you probably can't see it here at the moment, but it does say postnatal. So unfortunately, pregnancy and after giving birth, it can be a very stressful time on a woman's body, and I think as well, the sleep deprivation is also a very, very big factor. And if you're just not getting enough sleep, your adrenals are taxed, you're not getting enough rest, and immunity is low, and that's when thyroid problems could start there as well. So there's many, many, many factors. So what's the orthodox medical approach when you go and see your GP or your endocrinologist? They're probably going to put you on thyroxine, which is T4. So if you read the medical journals, if you read the government websites, thyroxine's a wonder drug, it's a cure-all. If you've got anything wrong with your thyroid at all, it'll sort it out. Unfortunately, really, if you read a lot of other research, you'll find that it just doesn't suit that many people. It may suit maybe 20% of people, but most other people, they actually feel worse on thyroxine. That because it can interfere with your T3s, and it's your T3s which is actually the active component of the thyroid. So thyroxine doesn't suit everybody, only some. I think probably a much better idea is the compounded medication, sorry. So you need to see, get a script from your doctor, go and get these meds compounded by a compounding pharmacy. And that is actually a natural desiccated thyroid extract, usually from pigs. It says cows on this slide, but I don't think they do it from cows anymore. I think it's just from pigs. So you have a very good balance in there of your T3s and T4s, but obviously if you're vegetarian or vegan, that's going to be a real problem for you. You probably won't be able to take those. So possibly if you can't take your desiccated thyroid extract, which is often abbreviated to NDT, you could talk to your doctor about thyroxine and possibly prescribing T3 as well. But unfortunately, both of these medications don't really address the cause, and that's what we're going to have a little look at now, how we're going to, yeah. So here we are, the natural medicine approach. So we're going to be looking at regulating that immune function. With that, you're going to be probably go on herbs, de-stressing, but the biggie for me is the decreasing the inflammation. That is the big one you want to go for. That's the most important part of getting you back on track to being healthy again and being you again. So the other thing you want to improve your gut health, your digestive function, and your liver function. We'll talk a bit more about that later. There are definitely foods, do's and don'ts. So we're looking at nutrition, herbs, lifestyle factors like stress management. Okay. Let's talk about food. Let food be thy medicine. It's unfortunate now that many doctors find it quite funny that, you know, things can be improved through diet. They only do one afternoon of nutrition, I think. So it's very, very good to either do your own research or speak to your naturopath or herbalist or nutritionist and your homeopath about diets. Don't let the word diet put you off. It doesn't mean low calories. It just means a change in the way that you eat. So the anti-inflammatory diet, what is that? It's not so much what we're adding, but what we're going to take away. So we're going to get rid of gluten, grains, dairy, caffeine, alcohol, sugars, and processed oils. Okay, so what's the matter with these foods? So gluten is a very pro-inflammatory food. So you're going to be finding that mostly in wheat, especially if it's being genetically modified. That causes most people problems anyway, and is a very, very pro-inflammatory food. So that would be the first thing that we take you off. Many grains, although on the food pyramid, they're seen as, you know, a wonderful food to eat and still recommended by dietitians, still talk about it in schools. For instance, you know, my daughter brought home her nutrition assessment from school. She's in high school, and I was amazed that they're still using the old food pyramid where they're saying grains are great. They aren't really. Yeah, sure, eat some, but in moderation, because they actually impair mineral absorption as well as putting your blood sugar levels absolutely all over the place. So probably the worst things you can do is start the day with a high carbohydrate food like cereals, toast, etc. Proteins are much better. Dairy is a biggie. Another biggie up there with gluten as a pro-inflammatory food. You're going to be looking at casein. It causes all sorts of issues, and many people don't tolerate dairy very well. Caffeine, possibly caffeine in moderation, but it is a very acidic food and can cause gut issues. I say food, it's a liquid, isn't it? But yeah, caffeine can cause problems. Alcohol's not good for you anyway. It impairs your liver function. Again, possibly in moderation. If you want to really get rid of inflammation, you're going to need to go off it for at least 6 weeks. Sugars, hugely inflammatory, horrible for the body. They will do all sorts of nasty things to your metabolism, your liver, and cause a lot of inflammation in the body. Processed oils, so what are these? Well, they've been heat treated and are often quite rancid. So especially things like canola, rapeseed, sunflower, your rice bran oils, they're quite nasty and rancid, and they will actually oxidize you rather than providing you with antioxidants, and they may cause you to bloat and inflame and all sorts. And there we also see that high carb diets do tend to irritate the gut lining. So as we've mentioned earlier, the gut is a very important factor in having a healthy thyroid. Next slide. Let food be thy medicine again. Yes, organic is best. That is true. Also have more flavor anyway. Anti-inflammatory diet. So what will we include and not just get rid of? Low HI. I like that one. Low human interference. So the less interference that you have in your food, the better it's going to be for you. So try and buy whole foods, organic veggies cooked from scratch, your Mediterranean diet, your paleo diet, and all these things are actually covered in the nutrition course with Switch On Health. So that's very valuable. Adding herbs to your food, powdered turmeric in your curries. You can slice up turmeric in your salads. It's actually delicious. It sounds crazy, hey? It's beautiful. Good quality oils, so your cold pressed oils, extra virgin olive oil, organic coconut oil, all very, very good. And nuts and seeds, because they're very high in selenium, zinc, and magnesium, and all those are highly nutritious for the thyroid. In fact, with zinc, you need that if you're taking your thyroxine medication in order to convert it to T3, something your doctor probably won't mention when he writes you that prescription. Okay, so the other important amino acid is L-tyrosine, found in chicken, turkey, fish, nuts, and seeds, and yummy avocados. Iodine. Okay, so we're finally getting on to iodine. Iodine actually is possibly contraindicated in Hashimoto's. Wouldn't recommend it. You have to be very, very careful with it. Very small doses of that. But low iodine, actually, if it's not an autoimmune condition that you've got, just poor thyroid function, you're probably low in iodine. So you're looking at seaweed, sushi, miso soups, nori sheets, Celtic sea salt, and kelp. Minerals, as we've mentioned, zinc, selenium, magnesium. You're going to get lots of selenium from Brazil nuts. Magnesium is a huge one. Most people are magnesium deficient anyway. Would highly recommend you go on that. Vitamin D, great. Yeah, vitamin D, especially for autoimmune disorders. And fluorine, that is fluoride. That actually competes with iodine. So if you look at the thyroid gland, they're going to be competing for the site on your thyroid gland. And so I would highly recommend getting rid of your fluoride toothpaste and having filter on your drinking water and your shower if you can. Again, there seems to be a lot of recommendation for calcium supplements, especially as you're getting older, but they actually interfere with magnesium and iodine absorption. So just be aware of that. Possibly best to have a bone density test to see where you are with that. And usually it's actually a magnesium deficiency and not a calcium one, but that's a whole nother topic. Okay. Let's have a look at beautiful herbal medicine. So kelp, often recommended, not always tolerated well. Best taken in tablets. Don't take liquid kelp. It's horrible stuff. It tastes terrible. I've had it myself. I love liquid extracts and tinctures, but kelp, oh, yeah, it's not good. And you really should not take it if you've got Hashimoto's. There's a whole Facebook page dedicated to iodine and kelp, etc. So if you want to do your research, I would definitely recommend that. With herbs, there are ones specific for hyperthyroid function, but not necessarily for hypothyroid function. Really, we're looking at the adaptogens so that you're dealing with stress and sorting out your cortisol production. Withania is my number one herb for anything. Fantastic. Holy basil, Romania, Siberian ginseng, and American ginseng. Love American ginseng. Not always very available, but it's a beautiful herb for stress and is particularly good for menopausal women. Again, I didn't mention before that some of the symptoms can be confused in older women with menopause, and doctors won't look at thyroid function. Instead, they'll prescribe HRT, which again, bit of a band-aid solution, not looking at symptoms. Flower essences. So we're now looking at vibrational medicine. I don't know if any of you have ever used the Australian bush flower essences. They are amazing. I've actually got some here. Here's one I purchased earlier. And so a specific for thyroid function is Old Man Banksia. If you prefer the Bach flower essences, then I think it's Wild Rose that's a specific for thyroid. So I won't talk too much about the flower essences because they do so many jobs. They're a beautiful healing modality. But again, I would encourage you, to do your research. So what are the lifestyle measures? Be kind to your adrenal glands. So your adrenal glands are going to be working hand in hand with your thyroid, because if your adrenals are overtaxed and stressed, that can then lead to poor thyroid function, and you can end up feeling very unwell and fatigued, especially if both of those aren't functioning well. So it's important to look after your adrenals. So I would say with exercise, nothing too strenuous or overexerting. Gentle exercises is best, regular every day and consistent. So we're looking at walking, yoga, stretching, Pilates, swimming, cycling, and a lovely one. If you don't like going to the gym, if you don't want to go out in your gym gear, just put your CD player on or Spotify on and put your favorite songs on and have a dance around the house like a loony, and you work up a great sweat and get the endorphins going. It'll make you feel happy, and you've done your daily exercise. It's a lovely way to exercise. Very important to get enough sleep. I do see a lot of clients that have issues with insomnia because they just can't switch off. So good sleep hygiene is crucial to good health. So if you can make it regular sleeping hours, not always possible, of course, if you're a shift worker, I would recommend that you have a cool room, cold if possible, because the body needs to be quite cool in order to fall asleep. I think that's probably one of the reasons why in tropical Brisbane we all have so much trouble sleeping in summer, because we can't get the room to cool down. You're also looking at no TV, no emails before bed, etc. Now let's talk about the woo-woo stuff, the woo-woo voodoo stuff. This is more vibrational, quantum type healing, more to do with emotions and how they affect your body. So here, throat chakra, which is blue. If you're having issues with your throat chakra, that's going to give you poor thyroid function, other things like tonsillitis, thyroid nodules, etc. A big one for me when people talk about thyroid problems is not speaking your truth, swallowing everything down, bottling up, not saying what you really think. It takes a brave person to speak their truth, but if you can, you will be on the road to healing. The other thing is trapped tears. You have a lump in your throat. That's going to cause you some issues, and I'm up to here with it. All those things may cause you to have thyroid issues. I'd say wearing blue around your neck can help you a lot, help with your communication skills as well. Something like your lapis lazuli. So yeah, I think that's it for now. So there's probably time for some questions, and I think I need some water.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Carol. Now I'm just going to quickly switch off Carol's microphone because we are actually sitting in the same room. So we're probably going to get a terrible echo. So that was Carol's very first ever webinar. I'm sure you all agree with me that she did a fantastic job. So well done, Carol. Now we've got just a few minutes left. We are very, very happy to have questions. Now I'll just stick into the chat box. We will have another session running immediately after this one. So we're probably not going to get to everybody's questions within the next 4 minutes, which is all the time we've got left. So please just have a look in the chat box. If you're not sure where it is, just put your mouse down to the bottom of the screen somewhere and you should see a chat. Click on chat and have a look in there. You'll see there's a second meeting ID in there. In a few minutes time, this meeting will end. Carol and I will immediately jump into the second meeting. And you'll all have the opportunity to ask questions. We're very, very happy to chat about this. Thyroid disorders are extremely common. I can't emphasize this enough. If you're going to be a natural medicine practitioner, I can pretty well guarantee that you will be dealing with thyroid people. There's very, very, very high chance that if you don't experience the thyroid problem yourself at some point in your life, somebody very close to you will. It is so common, it's not funny. Now, we've had a couple of good questions. My favorite question so far, this one is for Carol. Melanie has asked, what about taking thyroxine and compounded medicines at the same time? So Carol, would you like to answer that?
So you shouldn't need to take both of them together, because your compounded meds are already going to contain that T4 that's in the thyroxine. So you're going to be overdosing on your T4. And in your NDT, your natural desiccated thyroid extract, there's a natural balance of your T4s and T3s. I definitely wouldn't recommend taking them together. You're going to feel very jittery and quite unwell.
Excellent. Thanks, Carol. We had a question from Hannah who wanted to know, I think the question was, does somebody get all of those symptoms, or, which ones are most common? So Hannah, I'd say the ones that people are going to actually present with in clinic, the ones that they're going to come and, when you're a practitioner and you say to them, what brings you here today? The most common things we're going to hear would be low energy and feeling depressed, probably. In fact, if somebody comes to you and they say that they're feeling depressed, one of the things we would always check as a natural health practitioner is their thyroid function. So yeah, low energy, feeling depressed, and then weight gain as well. They're probably the top three that people are going to come and see you about. We may or may not have all the other ones as well. And sometimes you'll get somebody with low thyroid function who doesn't fit that picture. But the symptoms we've given you, they're the stereotypical, is that the right word? Stereotypical.
Yeah.
Thanks, Carol. Stereotypical picture. Okay. Let's see, what other questions do we have? Doris asked, what about goat's milk? So I'll hand over to Carol for that one. What about goat's milk?
Goat's milk, definitely a better choice than cow's milk, but I have read that it's still not recommended, especially when you're in the very inflammatory stage. I'd say possibly if you do a lot of gut healing and go on an anti-inflammatory diet for 6 months, you maybe try and reintroduce it and see how you go. But it's going to still contain small amounts of casein. It is a much better food than cow's milk, but I wouldn't be recommending it. I wouldn't give it to one of my clients. I wouldn't say, yeah, have goats instead of cows. Yeah, good question. Thanks.
Okay, excellent. So we're going to have to wrap it up and jump into our second session. If you've got a pen, quickly grab your pen and paper and write this down. It is also in the chat box. The meeting ID for the second meeting for the questions and answers is 784-1536-7931. Now, I know every time I read these numbers out, people probably get scrambled. If you don't have a pen, hopefully you've got a pen now. It is in the chat box. We've got another question here from Sharon. Sharon, we'll see if we can get to that one in the next session. Meeting ID, please do come and join us. We'd love to keep this going. Meeting ID is 784-1536.